What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So obviously, I know I've missed a couple games review-wise when it comes to Chelsea. I have watched all of them, but because of personal reasons that, frankly, I think you guys probably just wouldn't care about, I wasn't able to get around to doing those reviews. But I have watched all of them, including the one today. But my thoughts are pretty much the same as they have been, and I've talked about it many a time about how we're just still looking the same. And I really feel like I found a good comparison, a good analogy for what's going on this year. So this was Chelsea under Frank Lampard. And this is Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel. If you don't play FIFA, slight improvement. They change something a little bit every year, but it's the same game. Same game. Same team. No changes. Still nothing. Exactly the same that I was having under Lampard. Exactly the same problems. We're still slow. We're still dull. We still don't make passes in the final third click. We had our moments in this game. There are definitely more sparks. It feels like there is a little bit of lift under the team to keep us from losing games under Tuchel, but it's still the same problems. We're not going to be able to consistently play this way and just win. And it's shown the past two games in the Premier League. We tie against Southampton, who was easily beaten by somebody the next game. I don't remember who. Like, somebody crushed them in the next game. And I'm just sitting here thinking, that's embarrassing for us. We tied them 1-1, and then some... It wasn't even one of the top six, I don't think. I don't even care enough to look. But can't beat Southampton, and then at home against Man U, can't beat Man U. And they're not in great form right now. But yeah, we didn't lose, guys. I mean, I guess that's something if all you... Basically, the only people that I've seen that are defending Tuchel right now are the people that hated Lampard. Because anytime I say something bad about Tuchel, the first thing that always comes to me is like, just get over Lampard's sacking already. I wanted him gone too. You guys that watch my channel know, I've wanted him gone. I didn't think he was doing a good job this year. I didn't think he was making any changes. I didn't think things were working out under him. I thought it was way too early in his career. Tuchel's not done anything to convince me that, yeah, he's what we need. Honestly, what it's reminded me of is Jose's second season here, right? He always has that third year meltdown. So, third year, having trouble. I think we were like maybe 14th in the league. We were low. Like, we were down mid-table. So we get rid of Jose and we bring in Gus Hiddink. And I just remember watching all of Hiddink's games and thinking to myself, this is boring. Like, we were getting results. We were doing fine. We were beating the teams that were lower than us, and we were doing okay, a couple losses here and there, but we were drawing against teams that were higher in the table than us. So our results were okay, and it kept us from like being in any danger. I think he might have gotten us back up to Europa League spot, I think. Can't remember now. It's been a while. But that's how I feel this year. I feel like we've brought in a manager who is not changing up our form at all. Like, the way we're playing, our performances are still very much the same. But the manager's come in and has given us a little boost in our results. But we're still struggling. We're still not really where we should be. But the big problem is that was Hiddink, who was very clearly just a placeholder because we didn't have another option until the summer. So we're like, Hiddink, come in and just, do good enough. That's basically the only instructions, and he did good enough. He did okay. Tuchel, the instructions shouldn't be just do good enough. It should be, no, this should be your new manager. I mean, he is a high-profile manager. He's managed at Dortmund. I can't remember, was he at PSG as well? I mean, he's managed a couple top clubs. He's a manager you bring in for the long haul. He's one you bring in like a Klopp or a Guardiola. It's just maybe not on that same level as them, but he's still up there when it comes to named managers. And instead, what's happening is he's coming in and it's just dull. And it's boring. And I feel like we're still just kind of eking out results. We're not really a top club still. We're just kind of... We're not mid-table, but we're not really top four yet. We're battling for top four. We're an Arsenal, at this point. And that's not where I want us to be. So really, still frustrated. If Tuchel does not want us to be playing boring possession-based soccer, then why are we still doing it? There's so many moments still where player receives it, chance to go forward, cut it back and go back to defenders. It happens all the time. I mean, the worst one that I can remember is it was a 4v2. And it was one of those, like, ball kind of flicked in our favor, and it was 4v2. And then a pass goes outside to Kovacic, and it's past him. So now he has to chase it out wide. Well, now one of the defenders has gotten behind him. But the problem that Man U had at that moment, the two center defenders kept stepping back, which meant Ziyech was in behind this defender here that was on Kovacic onside. But does Kovacic see that? No, because his first touch takes him backwards. And now Man U's got everybody behind the ball again. I mean, it's that obvious. It is that obvious that their first instinct under Tuchel is still, let's go backwards. So, if he's changing that, why aren't we seeing that in the play? You practice how you play. So, if they were practicing going forward, if they were practicing being progressive, being attack-minded, being aggressive in the attack, if that were what they were practicing, we would be seeing that on the field. But what we're seeing is still the same thing that we saw under Lampard. First instinct, go backwards. Keep possession. Be safe. Don't do anything risky. And guess what? That leads to you're keeping possession in your back line for 20 minutes, and then you give the ball away and give the other team a chance. It's happened time and time again. It started with Sheffield, the first team under Tuchel, first team that we had under Tuchel that actually put pressure on us. They caused some problems. They actually got a goal. Granted, it was his own goal, but they caused us issues, and it was a tough game for us. And almost every team we faced since then have just left guys forward because they're like, oh, that's all we got to do? We just got to press them in defense? We can do that. And that's what they do, and they cause us trouble, and we can't figure it out. So, now that I've ranted about Tuchel enough, time to talk about individual players. Mendy in goal made some good saves. He's not really been a player that I've really been too concerned about. Like, yeah, he's had a couple moments that he was making some mistakes, and he did have like a moment where he bobbled it in this game, but he's just, he's a solid keeper. Honestly, what it makes me think of is De Gea, because De Gea used to just be unbeatable. Like, you had to basically set up a great goal. You couldn't just easily beat him. But he did have a bit of a run, a stretch where he started making mistakes, and now they do slip into his game every now and then. But he's still a top-class keeper, and the save he made today from Ziyech's shot proves that. So I think for Mendy, like, for the most part, when a shot comes in, I'm not worried. It's more like those moments where a cross comes in, or when we're passing around the back a lot and the pass goes to him. Those are more of the moments that I get a little bit more nervous, because it's just the little lapses in concentration that are affecting him now. But as far as shot stopping, I mean, we hardly have any issues with him in goal, so that's always good to have. Back three, all of them very solid. I thought Rudiger probably had the best of the three, and that's just because he was more involved than the other two. But they all did their jobs well enough. Honestly, I thought Christensen actually set up some of our best attacks with his passes out of the back. And I've said it before, like, the guy in the center, if he's not going to be a defender like Silva where he just reads the play and he's mainly focused on defending, it's always good to have a defender that can play with their feet and can distribute really well. And I think Christensen does that well. So I thought some of his passes that he just sort of sprayed out wide and got it to our wingbacks to get them down the field, I thought were fantastic. But defensive-wise, I thought all three of them did their jobs well enough. Azpilicueta was called on to make a lot of one-on-one challenges, and Rudiger, I think, just controlled that side for pretty much the entire game. Like, I don't think James really had much of anything or Daniel James had much of anything going for him, because Rudiger was just constantly on top of him. So, wing-back-wise, so Hudson-Odoi started right, and then went out with possibly a leg strain, maybe a hurt ego, I don't know. But yeah, he came out at halftime, and then Chilwell was on the left the entire game. Both of them were okay. Neither of them really had fantastic games. I think right now, I mean, Chilwell and Alonso, you don't get a whole lot of difference. I think Alonso is more like you're going to get good attacking play from him. Chilwell, he's got some speed to him, but he also works back very well. So it's kind of like both of them have their strengths, but both of them also have their weaknesses. I think Chilwell in the attack has kind of faded out since he came in, and Alonso obviously has that weakness in defense. So it just kind of depends on what player you need. And I think Chilwell today, defensively he was fine. Attacking, still we need more out of him. We brought him in to be better than Alonso, and he's essentially just kind of the opposite of what we need or what we had in Alonso. So, but yeah, Hudson-Odoi just kind of faded in and out of the game. James came in, just quietly did his job, didn't do anything spectacular, even though he had some moments where he could have done something spectacular. So he's a player who came out flying at the beginning of the season, and then it just slowly started dropping off. And I know the injury affected him a little bit that he had earlier on, but you can just tell he's not the same player that we were expecting. He's just kind of there. He's not really providing much. And that's, honestly, it's kind of a problem. Like, defensively, he's still doing okay, but he has had his lapses in concentration where we lost that defensive side of him. And now he's not really bringing anything in the attack, so why are you out there? So he definitely needs, in my opinion, to step up his game because he's still got a lot of potential, got a lot of talent, but you've got to step into that. You got to start bringing that because if not, then you're just another, oh, he could have been something great, and he's not. In the midfield, Conte and Kovacic were the two in there. In my opinion, probably our two best performers overall. Kovacic, slightly less, only because I felt like there were a lot of moments in the final third where, again, he's not quite there. Like, he doesn't have that finishing pass, the finishing shot, and it feels like he should. As talented as he is on the ball, you would think he would be a great attacking player. But in reality, the best thing he does is whenever we have possession, he's good at getting out of the pressure and kind of building from the back. So I feel like he needs to add that to his game. At that final third, he needs to add more of it because I want him to be that player. I feel like he can be that player, but he just isn't. He doesn't ever find that final pass. But Conte, I mean, it was honestly back to the Conte that we got a few years ago, because he's kind of faded in and out. He's not really been the world-class star that I think a lot of us saw a few years ago whenever he won the league with Leicester and then won the league with us and then won the World Cup. Like, he was just that ball of energy that could not be handled. Like, anytime you came down the field, Conte was there. Today felt kind of like a return to that form for him. Like, he was all over the pitch. He was constantly breaking up their attacks, constantly putting in challenges that would stop their attacks. I mean, he was just all over the place. I'm just like, that's the Conte that I love to see. Fernandes was just completely useless, more so than usual, and mainly because they didn't get a penalty. And then the front three, Mount, Ziyech, and then Giroud up top. Mount, okay. I've seen better games from him, but he still provided a lot going forward. He still provided those runs that caused the defenders issues. And unfortunately, because most of those runs don't lead to anything, most of the time they go unnoticed. But he is making those runs. He is doing things that's trying to cause the defenders some problems. Problem is just most of the time the team is not really firing together. And so whatever he does doesn't really help out because we're not doing anything with the ball at that time. So it ends up being more of a useless run than anything else. But then Giroud and Ziyech, both of them had their moments, but both of them also didn't really provide much. For Giroud, it's kind of disappointing because we haven't had a striker that's been consistently performing. I mean, obviously, great goal against Atletico, like, quality. But he can't seem to produce that consistently. And then obviously Timo, he's been playing well, he's been working hard, but he can't consistently find the finishing touch. So it's like we needed a striker who could do it for more than one game, and I was hoping that was going to be Giroud today, but unfortunately he just couldn't find it. He couldn't find that finishing pass, he couldn't find the finishing touch. Almost got his head on the one in the first half, but for the most part it was just kind of another performance from him. And Ziyech, second half I thought was better, but first half was almost non-existent, I thought. So he's I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he's still recovering from whatever he had, injury wise. If he's still getting back to that full fitness, but he just looks a shadow of the player that I saw like several games ago. I just remember thinking he was going to be our next Willian. Very creative, very hardworking when winning the ball back, and now he's just sort of Arsenal's Willian. So, substitutions. I already talked about James. Pulisic was okay. Didn't really do much. And then Werner wasn't really on the field for long and wasn't really that involved. Did almost have one, but didn't get on the end of it. And it's kind of one of those that you feel like you should be getting on the end of it because you're a striker and you should want to beat the defender there. But I kind of felt like he wasn't really getting there. So both of those subs just they were basically man for man. You bring on Pulisic for Giroud because you need more pace. Bring on Werner for Ziyech because you just want to get some fresh legs in. That's all it really was. And I was a little disappointed with that as far as subs go because I felt like you could have changed the game a little bit. We were doing okay. We were keeping the pressure on them. The only chances they were really getting were counterattacks on us. But we were keeping the pressure a bit higher up the field, which was good since we kept so much possession and pressure on ourselves in the first half. But then those subs just didn't really change much. We were still basically the same after that. And so, I don't know. It just kind of felt like if you bring on maybe Havertz for one of the two, now you've got more of a creative playmaker in there, and he might be able to work something out. But instead, he just brought on two more pacey players, and at that point, United were sitting so deep that we can't use our pace. So I just felt like those subs were kind of useless, and they didn't really provide much, which kind of furthered that thought. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's just, again, it's another boring game. It's another game where I feel like Tuchel's just not really changed much for us. We're still basically the same team. Our results have just improved. And that's not good enough because Frank had his good runs. He had a run at the beginning of the season where I was thinking like, yeah, like this is, I knew Frank could do it. I knew he could be a good manager, and then slowly dropped off into where we didn't win in a long time. I just feel like that's still a possibility. And until we get to a point where we're playing with such confidence and we're playing with enough aggression and we're creating chances and we're keeping good clean sheets, until we get to that point, it's going to feel like, well, we're just any other team. We can go on a good run. We can go on a barren run. This is 2 draws in a row in the Premier League. We could have another draw against, I think we have Liverpool next. We could have another draw or a loss. That would be 3 games in a row without a win. And then we have Everton. We could easily draw or lose to them. That would be 4 without a win. So it just feels like any moment our good run without a loss could easily go away. And that's how it felt under Lampard too. So that's why I just don't think Tuchel's really brought anything different so far. That could still change. I mean, it's still very early for him, so he could still change things up. He could still find a way to get the best out of our team and actually get us on a good run where we're looking the best team and we're looking like one of the top teams. But right now, we just still look pretty average. We just a lot of good possession with nothing to show for it. So the final thing I will talk about is the non-penalty because I know that was a big topic. Thankfully, the commentators and the pundits in the studio on NBCSN kind of shut that down pretty quickly. And yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous to think that me putting my hand on your arm, and because my hand is on your arm and a ball hits my hand there, suddenly that's going to be a penalty. Like, it just seems like the slightest of touches on a hand or an arm now could turn into a penalty, and it just feels ridiculous because players don't jump like this. I mean, I thought the same thing when West Brom playing Brighton. I don't remember who it was, but one of the defenders put his hand on the guy's shoulder to try to use him as leverage to jump and head it, and the ball hits his hand there. What am I supposed to do then? Am I supposed to challenge him like this? Am I supposed to jump with my arms down? Are we all just supposed to be jumping beans and try to head the ball like that? No. So I just feel like it's gotten way too ridiculous. It's gotten way too oh, you really have to be careful where you put your hands. So I was glad that the referee looked at that and said, no, that's not a penalty, because it shouldn't be. It's very, very obviously he's putting his arm up to challenge. It's not an unnatural position. It's not like he's putting his arm up here and it hits his hand there. Like, that's obviously an unnatural position. But here is not unnatural. And hitting the hand out here when it was just about to hit Greenwood's arm anyway is not an unnatural position. So I just want to go and address that because I know that's going to be a talking point. I've already seen it over social media. These stupid pages are like, oh, Chelsea gets lucky with VAR. No, we got lucky that the VAR decided not to be stupid today. But anyways, all that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game? Let me know what you can talk about and discuss, all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace out.